All right, back again on the CA podcast. Sorry about the gap last week, but as we all know, it was Thanksgiving and duty called, so I was far too busy eating turkey and watching football and sleeping and not doing anything to record a podcast. I'm only human. So looking at the season as it's progressing, there are 2 weeks left. That means 4 games. We're going to skip the waivers as at this point in the year. It doesn't really matter that much. Kind of break down the playoff watch. So start first and foremost with each division, different winning scenarios. Because of the massive gap in total points, it's kind of safe to say that Arielle is going to win the Schindler division over Dennenberg if he has a 2-0 weekend. If Dennenberg stumbles to 1-1 or 0-2, while Hova wins both his matchups, then the division is officially clinched. So D right now is currently 2 games back. He needs to win 3 or more of his final 4, while Arielle loses all 4 to avoid a tiebreak. Crazier things have happened, but really Arielle appears to have it locked up, especially the way his team has been playing as of late. In the Lane Bryant division, things are a little bit more interesting. A nice weekend puts me out to a 2-game lead with 4 left to play. Kraus and Oaks are tied with 12 wins apiece, but Kraus is 162.5 points behind Oaks and 179 points behind me. Let me take a moment to explain that I'm taking our points from the full standings page, where it basically doubles your points. So, say you score 100 points, your team scores 100 points, it'll be reflected on that page as 200 points because essentially you're playing the 2 matchups. So the numbers that I'm quoting here, are from that page. They're a total point. Basically it's all relative, but essentially what I'm saying is that Kraus is 162.5 points behind Oaks. That means that he is 81.25 points, actual points. Like, that's all he needs to score to make up that gap. But, that's how it's reflected. As I mentioned, he's 179 points behind me. This means he's going to need to make up a gap of, over 80 weekly points to win a tiebreak in his next 2 weeks. So it's not very likely. Kraus is going to need to win 3 or 4 of his next games, while I lose 3 or more. Oaks, meanwhile, actually only needs to win 2 or more of his final 4, while I lose 2 or more to send it to a tiebreak. I have a meager lead of 16.5 total points over Oaks, which means the tiebreak is really still totally up in the air. I've been adamant all year that Oaks' team sucks, but it doesn't matter what I think. All that matters really is the win total at the end of the year. So really, it's too close to call. Kraus is obviously still in it, and then myself and Oaks, based on our lead in total points, are the strongest challengers. As far as Mam is concerned, Ben can clinch this weekend if he goes 2-0, while Smith and Billy go 0-2. Any other combination of wins and losses, and the division is still open, headed into the last week. There's really too many scenarios to get into, so we will dive into that next week. As far as people that have been eliminated from the division championship, there's a handful. Justin Deutsch, he is 11 games out of first place with 4 games left to go. So obviously he's been eliminated from winning the division there. He furthermore is 522.4 points behind his brother for the wild card points lead. So really the wild card is impossible. More on Justin's end of season scenario in a little bit here. Also eliminated from division championship contention, Brian Deutsch. Brian is 6 games back with 4 games left and has been eliminated from winning the Schindler division. If the season did end today, he would be in the playoffs on virtue of his total points, getting him the wild card. So he's obviously had a good season, really, kind of turned things around with that trade. Hasn't really seen the wins piled up, but total points, is what he's really striving for, and he's obviously done a great job of that as he currently holds the wild card spot. He trails Arielle by only 20 points for the league lead in total points. Really, it just needs to focus on starting the highest scoring possible roster in the next 4 games, and he'll clinch the wild card. Also eliminated from division championship, Jason Plotzker. Some may make the argument that Plotzker was eliminated from the Lane Bryant division back in August when he drunkenly bargained his team away for a bag of magic beans. It's now official, though. So he's officially eliminated from winning the Lane Bryant division and has been for the past couple of weeks. He's 7 games back with 4 left to go. He is dead last in the league in total points. He is a staggering 602.7 points behind Deutsch for the wild card lead. So things are not going well for Plotzker. A little bit more on him later as well. No one has been eliminated from contention in the Middle American maniacal midget. I don't know. I don't even remember what MAM stands for, but I like the acronym. Bootsie is clinging to life, as he's only 3 games back and needs to overcome a really large gap in total points. Smith is the leading scorer in the division, but he only has the 5th highest total in the league, so it's pretty safe to say that the wild card is not coming from MAM. All right, the Clown Watch. It's a 2-team race. By virtue of Justin and Plotzker going 0-2 last weekend, while Deutsch went 2-0. The race is now officially down to just Plotzker and Justin. Everyone else has been eliminated from Clown contention. Plotzker currently holds a 1-game edge with a record of 7-17, while Justin only has 6 wins. Plotzker trails Justin by total points, by a pretty significant margin, 80.3 points, which means that Plotzker has to make up a discrepancy of over 40 weekly points in the next 4 games. Considering his team kind of struggled to crack double digits this past week, I would say he will not do that. So the schedules, if you look at them, break down kind of like this. Justin plays Smith and Arielle this weekend, and then Plotzker and Denenberg next weekend. Plotzker plays myself and Denenberg this weekend, and then Justin and Oaks in Week 14. So, the schedule seems to favor Plotzker. Justin plays the number 1 team in the league, Arielle, as well as stiff competition in Smith and Denenberg. Plotzker plays good teams in myself and Denenberg, but gets a bit of a break when he plays Oaks in Week 14. Both teams should go 0-2 this weekend, leaving Justin trailing by a game in the final week of the season. With an edge in total points, he'll be looking to force a tie, which would put Plotzker in the clown suit. My prediction is that they would both go 1-1 in the final week. Plotzker narrowly avoids the foam brick, and we all have a party in Champagne. All right, so that's your playoff scenarios. Now getting into the power rankings. Starting at the back of the pack, number 12, Jason Plotzker. As previously mentioned, he's been eliminated from everything but clown contention. His scoring over the last few weeks has just been a total embarrassment. He narrowly has cracked 100 combined points in the last 2 weeks. He is rolling out a roster that's filled with more stiffs than a mortuary. Chad Henne, Rashard Mendenhall, Donald Jones, Nick Foles. It sounds like a recipe for some clowning. Number 11, Justin. Justin's team is very bad and has been bad all year. He did have a little tiny glimpse of hope in Week 7 and 8 when he won 3 out of 4 matchups against Ben, Oaks, and his brother. But he's since lost 7 of his last 8 matchups and has only cracked triple digits once in that stretch. He did a good job of avoiding the QB scare zone this year, as he had Matt Ryan and Josh Freeman, but he is in the running back, wide receiver, tight end, defense, kicker scare zone, so things kind of equal out. Number 10, Bootsie. Bootsie really had an excellent start to the season, got up to an 11-4 record. Since a stirring Week 8 win where he narrowly surpassed me for weekly high points on Monday Night Football, he has lost 8 in a row while averaging a pathetic 81.7 points per game. His trade of RG3 and Victor Cruz for Ryan Matthews, Aaron Hernandez, Eric Decker, Alex Smith, and 12 auction dollars is not only strongly in the running for worst trade of the season, it's right up there next to Ricky Williams as the worst trade of all time. So excellent work, Bootsie. Number 9, Oaks. Oaks finally had a dose of reality this past week. He did post a nice, respectable weekly score of 95 points, but got steamrolled by 2 of the better teams in the league, and myself and Brian Deutsch. Oaks will be forced into starting Jake Locker again next week now that Whedon is out with a concussion. He plays Kraus and Bootsie as well, so he might find a way to Oaks himself into 2 more wins. His team sucks on paper, but does not appear to be done yet. Number 8. Kraus. He's done an excellent job of making sure we all know about it, but just because of that doesn't mean that he hasn't suffered some really bad luck. He's managed to win 4 of his last 6 while dealing with Roethlisberger, Leftwich being out, Maurice Jones-Drew's injury from the week he traded for him, Larry Fitzgerald getting paired with the shittiest quarterbacks this side of Todd Collins, and Michael Turner's fall from grace. So, granted, any one of these maladies could have been avoided with a little bit of managerial foresight. It's still a lot to overcome. So Kraus is currently sitting at 12-12, 2 games out of the division lead with 4 games left. Still in striking distance, but his recent downturn has left him in a serious disadvantage in total points, meaning he's going to need some help over the next 2 weeks to contend. Number 7, Andrew Smith. Smith had a mid-season 5-game swoon, a 5-game losing streak, but he's bounced back in a big way. He's won 6 of his last 8. However, if you stop and you examine, his schedule a little bit, kind of tells a little bit of a different story. Smith's victories over the past few weeks have come against Plotzker twice, Bootsie, Kraus, and Justin. The only legitimate contender he's beaten since week 6 has been Billy. Meanwhile, if you look at his losing streak during a little bit earlier in the year, you see that those were against some of the real teams. Deutsch, myself, Dannenberg, a loss to Billy. Kind of similar to the 2012 Chicago Bears. Smith beats up on the tomato cans and trips up when he plays a real team. So, we'll be able to test this theory for sure in the next few weeks. He plays Justin and Ben this week, and then Kraus and Billy in week 14. So we'll see. In at number 6, Billy himself. Bad luck, Billy. Despite the last-second acquisition, Aaron Rodgers sucking it up this past week, Billy still managed to go 2-0, get 2 wins. So 1 win was over the hapless kid, but he did beat his brother, which gives him some life in the MAM division race. Even if you factor out Bootsie, the divisional race is still really tight. Billy gets kind of a cupcake schedule in week 13. He plays Bootsie and Kraus. But the heat gets turned up in week 14 when he plays Deutsch, who will be vying for the wild card to lock up the wild card at that point, and Smith as well. Depending what happens with Ben this week, his roster's in a little bit of trouble. That matchup with Smith, Billy and Smith in week 14 may decide the division title. So Rodgers gets the Lions and Vikings, while Breeze plays the Falcons and Giants. Things look like they're stacking up pretty well. Hopefully Bill can avoid some bad luck down the stretch. In at number 5, D-Berg. Really could have helped himself this past week, but instead he kind of put up an 88-point stinker. It wouldn't have mattered anyways, I should say, as he played the number 2 and number 3 highest scoring teams of the week in myself and Arielle. Tony Romo had a big game in defeat, but injuries to Miles Austin and Matt Forte really killed him early. Speaking of killing, Dannenberg, Plotzker certainly tried his best to kill you at Westridge. I haven't seen a collision like that bad since Rifkin's wife tripped while going for 8ths at the Sizzler last week. Dannenberg is still in the thick of things here in the Schindler division, but he's going to need some help from Arielle's opponents. In at number 4, we got Ben Boris. Ben is in the driver's seat for the MAM division. Can actually clinch things this weekend. This past week, Peyton Manning didn't have his best game. Andy Dalton was sharp, though. Trent Richardson ripped a big TD run. Ben lost to his brother, though, so he kind of leaves the door open. Things don't really get any easier as he faces off against the high-scoring team, the normally high-scoring team aces, and he gets Smith as well. Ben told me earlier today that if Jalen Parmalee doesn't play this week, then he's in real trouble. And I told him that if his entire fantasy season relies on Jalen Parmalee, then he's in trouble already. Number 3, Brian Deutsch. Say what you will about his wins and losses or his management style, but Deutsch appears destined for the wild card and the playoffs. He'll be the first team in CA League history to make the playoffs with a losing record. His acquisition of Scam Newton has paid off big time as a big Monday Nighter last night. Clinched weekly high points for Brian for the 5th time this year. He has 2 weeks left to make back his initial investment on high points money alone. Only needs 1 more. As an aside, Brian did call his shot when he proclaimed Cecil Shorts to be undroppable a few weeks back. And Sideshow Cecil has responded well. He's got touchdowns in 3 straight games. So Deutsch is definitely in a good place. Number 2, myself. Nothing is decided quite yet. There's a little argument that my team is separated a bit from the rest of the pack in the Lane Bryant division. I went 2-0 this past weekend with wins over Oaks and Dannenberg. Gives me a 2-game lead with 4 games left. Additionally, I also lead the division in total points. I have a sizable points lead over the other legitimate contender, John Kraus. I still do have 1 game left, though, against Kraus. I also play league leader Arielle this week, who I don't think I've beaten this year. So, obviously I'm not exactly running away with things. Brady also plays the Texans in week 14. So really I'll try my best to lock things up this week, go 2-0, and make that final meeting with Kraus irrelevant. And in at number 1, it should really stand as no surprise, Arielle Glicksberg. He's number 1 in wins, number 1 in total points. There's not much of an argument with putting Arielle in the top spot. He did, unfortunately, get knocked off for the weekly high points last night with an epic Cam Newton performance, but didn't stop him from going 2-0 and essentially clinching a playoff spot. So, like I've said with a couple other people, nothing is decided yet, but obviously it would be pretty shocked if Arielle didn't make it. All right, time to open up the old mailbag. Got a couple of good ones from earlier in the week. First one, it's a multi-part question. Number 1, which Thanksgiving food best represents each league member? Please provide at least a brief explanation. 2, tell me the story of the best gravy you ever tasted. And 3, why separate knob? Why? Ben. Let me start by saying, Ben, that I have no idea what the third part of your question means. I'm going to ignore it. Something tells me it was another one of your attempts at making me read something verbatim that sounds stupid, so I just did it. As long as we're moving backwards, then I'll go to number 2. I can tell you without a doubt the best gravy I've ever had was in Birmingham, Alabama. It was a Thanksgiving feast with a camp friend of mine down there. I'm sure that the secret ingredient was massive amounts of lard. Thanksgiving food, I didn't really have time at work today to break it down piece by piece, but here's some foods that describe each division. The Schindler division is green bean casserole. It's economical, everyone's favorite, but it's capable of being very good, delicious at times, and also very bad, disgusting, terrible. And so you see that, reflected in their performance. During the season, as far as the Lane Bryant division, I would say the turkey. In my eyes, it's the centerpiece division. It's the largest, talks the most shit, really dominates the table. And then as far as ma'am is concerned, I would say sweet potatoes, yams. Not the biggest dish on the table, but vitally important. Really, almost you could make the argument the glue that holds the Thanksgiving dinner together. Next question, actually, it's not a question, but I'd like to hear a quick breakdown of the Turkey Bowl as part of the podcast. Possibly name an MVP, but much more importantly, a most disappointing and a best hungover performance, taking into account both the person's performance on the field and their likelihood of vomiting on the sidelines. Billy. The Turkey Bowl this year was highly competitive until it wasn't. The Jason Plotzker experience got out to a quick lead, featuring touchdowns by Brent Schwartz and even JP himself. Even I got in the fun catching an extra point. However, the swinging D's came swinging back and scored what felt like 8 touchdowns in a row. MVP in my eyes was the same guy it is every year, Brent Horvey. He's the Randy Moss of the Turkey Bowl. He mails it in all year and then turns it on when the lights are bright. So, MVP goes to Brent Horvey. LVP, the least valuable player, I think there's really no argument for this. Obviously, Aaron Schuster. Really, Roy Williams never dropped as many balls as Shuey did on Turkey Day. Stick to basketball, shice. Best hungover performance goes to Denenberg, and I'm not talking about being hungover from alcohol from Blackout Wednesday. I'm actually talking about his speedy recovery from a concussion hangover, compliments of Jason Jungle Boy Plotzker. Next question. What is the best Thanksgiving food? Turkey's got all the glory, but everyone knows the sides are better. I like sweet potato casserole and the white trash green bean casserole with fried onions on top. Also, any and all pies. Number 2, is the night before Thanksgiving the best day of the year for drinking? To me, it's that, St. Patrick's Day, or Christmas Eve before I go to church with my family. Smith. All right, well, I'd say, best Thanksgiving food in my eyes, mashed potatoes. My aunt makes them with Parmesan cheese kind of crusted on top. It's goddamn good. Also, pumpkin pie with either whipped cream or Cool Whip on it, on top of it. It's, after the meal or the morning after, whenever. It's the best. I love Thanksgiving. And then, this past Blackout Wednesday was a really good time. Kraus forced me to drink tequila. Most of you spent 6+ hours at the poorhouse. And Ben had sex with what can only be described as a mix between Cruella de Vil and Indira Gandhi. That being said, I agree. St. Paddy's Day is a lot more fun. Blackout Wednesday still involves a day of work prior, no matter how uncommitted he might be. Meanwhile, St. Paddy's Day is a rip-roaring, wild, woolly good time. Starts at 8 a.m. and it doesn't stop until Flanders is dead. All right, thanks, guys, for listening. Good luck this weekend. We should see some separation, and go Bears.